Hi boys and girls, it's me Butch. My name is Terry David Silvercloud. I'm not native, it just sounds that way. Trying to keep things together here. Where are we going with this? So today is December 25th, Thursday, 2025. I'm 81 years old and I'm testing out camera gear, and one of my gimbals for some reason decided to discharge itself overnight. I don't know why, but if you're a creator, you know what I'm talking about. If something could go wrong, it will. So what I'm doing is testing out gear here, and my new DJI Nano, that's you guys over there. I think I just pointed at you. So at the moment I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras running, and that's a big test for me. I have a new computer. It took a while to get that going, and the DJI Nano required a smartphone with an internet connection, which I do not have. So that took a while to get that operating. So today's Christmas, and I yak because I'm an old geezer. And what I wanted to yak to you a bit about was, I guess, Christmas, because it's Christmas, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about religions. And I think what I really got to do is I got to put this camera down a bit. This is too awkward. Bear with me. Here we go. This is all a big experiment. You're part of it. I'm trying to improve my sound, too. So where am I going to put you? I don't know. Means I can make you higher. Hang on. Hang on while I do not adjust your sets. He's going to make this work somehow. Let's try this. Maybe we'll put you over there. That's not a bad idea. Probably I just put you there. Does that work? Maybe. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's go with that. Okay. I'm working with one gimbal. You over there, you're tracking me. You are. See? You can have a poke around, see my place. And the other gimbal's not up to scratch today. So today's Christmas, and it started off sunny, but it's not sunny now. And it's 10 after 2. I've had a few painkillers because Butch is 81, and he has severe arthritis, and he's been in multiple car accidents and falls, and it's rough and tumble life. So where were I? See, and he's old, so he loses track of what he's yakking about. Christianity and religions and all that. So I'm going to throw in the Islamic religion here a bit. And I know that when I start talking about religion, I lose some subscribers and that, and whatever. You have to learn to agree to disagree in this world. Not putting anybody down. I say all the time that I consider religions to be the epitome of evil, and I truly mean it. But that's my right to say that, and you can do what you want to do. That's your right. Go do it. But most of you who are religious don't know much about your religion or anything about it, where it came from, anything. Which is disturbing to me, because I thought, well, why aren't you asking questions? And I guess, many of you who are into religion have been brought up, it's just been brainwashed into you. That's normal. It's real, and you don't get into science. And witchy poo, me, I'm into quantum physics and particle physics and motion physics. And, I have my own theories, of course. Let me throw this in. Butch says that the speed of light is a relativity illusion of the size of the tachyon, which is much smaller than the electron. But we measure the speed of light by both the circumference and the diameter of the electron, and that involves basically the difference between direct current and alternating current to some extent. I'm not going to get off into that sciencey stuff. I'm trying to make lots of videos about that. I'm concerned I'll drop dead at any time. I had I was hospitalized last January, a year ago, and now I'm taking lots of pills for my heart. And if I'm going to be alive, I want to be useful and entertaining and teach you stuff that you don't know. They tell me I'm a smart boy. I don't want to be one of those boastful kind of guys, but I've certainly been advised by people who have tested me and stuff that I'm kind of a smarty. Well, maybe on that camera you can see these other things down here. So where was I going? So Christmas, where did Christmas come from? Because I don't want to talk about the bad things about religion, just talk about fun things here. Christmas really, I guess, comes from the book of Matthew in the New Testament, with the story of the wise men, the kings, seeking out somebody they thought was important being born and bringing gifts to Jesus, who was, because the town was all crowded because the census was happening and Mary was pregnant, and so they took refuge in a manger, which was probably not that unusual, but it makes for a good story too. Anyhow, that's sort of where Christmas began, but where did Christianity begin? Well, you might say it began with Jesus, but we don't know if he really existed. It's highly likely there was somebody that was him, but there's not much of a record of him other than the Christian records. The Jewish people don't pay any attention really to Jesus. They like Christmas. It's good for business. But where was I going with all this? I forgot. See, I lose track because I'm old or something. I don't know. Smokes too much pot. What's the point I'm trying to make here? So Christmas began with Jesus, and this is where I want to divert a bit into the Islamic religion, I think. The life of Jesus was very similar in some ways to the life of Mohammad, in that they didn't really get religion until they were around 30-ish, and both of them traveled extensively before they got religion. So Jesus had traveled throughout Egypt, and Mohammed as well, and both of them highly likely and even probably traveled to the Far East. That is a really big possibility. Muhammad, I'm going to get around to some other stuff if I yak long enough. Muhammad was born in what we call Mecca today. At that time, it was just an oasis with a rundown, very, very, very old building, and the various tribes who quarreled amongst themselves would leave their religious artifacts in this building called the Kaaba. Ka is an ancient word you'll find even in Egyptian, sort of meaning spirit or soul. Ba is like a body or a house, a body, the body of the spirit, Kaaba. That's what Jesus assigning to that name. Anyhow, for those of you who aren't up on the Islamic religion, millions of Islamic folk are required once in their life to go visit this old building, which has been restored, and it's now got running water and electricity, and you can go see it. But I'm diverting here. Where was I going with all of this? Oh yeah, so Jesus, Muhammad, so he was an orphan. He grew up with his uncle living at the Kaaba, minding, sweeping, keeping the place clean, and, answering questions for the various tribes. They'd fight amongst each other, and Muhammad and his uncle were from the smallest tribe, so they looked after the Kaaba, and the other tribes would leave their religious relics there, so they didn't have to lug them around as they were trucking around, because everybody traveled around in those days for one reason or another. Where am I going with all of this? The Kaaba, Muhammad. Oh, so right. So Muhammad, he was probably gay, but he was married off to a much, much older woman when he reached puberty and his tool started working. And he traveled not with her but for her and traded on her behalf. And somewhere around age 30th, he and she, I don't think stopped living together or anything like that, because I think he took a couple of other wives. I'm not up on that. That's not really important. The important thing, it was a much older lady, and she basically trained him in business to work for her, and somewhere along the line he got religion. Now, a very similar sort of thing happened to Jesus. We don't know much about him growing up, when he was a kid, or he just vanishes until he reappears. But what we do know about him, it seems to be fact, is he took up trading, and he may have been married off to an older woman. We don't know, but he certainly did become a trader, and he traveled extensively, definitely through Egypt. This would have widened their knowledge of other religions, just greatly widened their knowledge. Like, one of the reasons Butch has sort of a weird, wide set of knowledge is that when I was 19, I became an officer in the Canadian Navy, and I traveled around the world a bit, so I got to see things at a young age. It's educational. Where were I? Let's get back to Jesus and Christmas, because I just want to bring out some similarities between the Christian religion and the Islamic religion, because I don't like religions, but if I could do anything, I would like to help bring peace between the Christians and the Muslims, and also the Jewish people. What's going on in Gaza between Israel and those poor people in Gaza is just contemptible, detestable. I basically don't really want to associate with anybody Jewish these days. Sorry, that's the way it is. Get your act together, and maybe Butch will talk to you again, but the Jewish people should be outrageously ashamed of themselves for what they're doing, stealing the land of the Palestinians. That's another story. I want to get back to similarities between the Muslims and a little bit the Jewish people and the Christians. Christianity did not begin until the year 390. I can't cover everything at once, and I keep forgetting what I'm talking about. And that happened because the Roman leadership had mostly moved to Constantinople, I guess it was, and they weren't so much feeding Christians to the lions anymore at the Colosseum, and various Christian sects got themselves together at a conference around the year 390, and they said, we got to get our act together. This isn't working, and we're getting stronger, and let's just take over Rome. And they did. So they assigned a guy named Jerome to write a Bible. There was no Bible before that. He had to get together various, mostly Greek texts about the Bible, like different texts, and then he said, well, we're going to put this book in, not for that book, we'll take this book, we won't take that book. And then they wrote it all in Latin, and Jerome made a big mistake, and he translated the bright morning star as Luciferos, and that got translated in English as Lucifer, and what they're really talking about was Venus, the bright morning star. But in the last 30 years now, anyway, it's getting on, since the late 1980s, English-speaking Bibles have removed Lucifer from the Bible. That was just a big translation error. Never was a Lucifer, never going to be a Lucifer. Isaiah 14:12. It was about the fall of, Isaiah was writing about the fall of the Persian king that had enslaved them before he went back to Jerusalem to rebuild Jerusalem. So I want to bring together, before I shut up, I just go on and on and on like a dripping tap, the connection of the Islamic religion and the Jewish religion, that's what it is, and Christianity. Remember, Mohammad grew up at the Kaaba, which basically means house of the spirit or home of the spirit. Now, the interesting thing is we don't really know who built the Kaaba, but we do know it was built before the time of Muhammad, and most people think it was built around at the same time Christianity began, of all things, around the 4th or 5th century. We don't know. But what we do know is that the Romans were really pissed off at the Jews and tried to wipe them out. And that's where the Dead Sea Scrolls came from, and the remaining Jewish folk who weren't enslaved and sent off to Rome or killed or whatever, held up in the hills, and the Romans said, no problem. And they spent 2 years building ramps up, covered ramps so they couldn't have stones and stuff thrown down them, up the side of the mountain, and it took them 2 years, and when it was done, they just marched up the ramp and killed every Jew in sight, and those they didn't kill jumped off the cliffs and killed themselves, and they left us the Dead Sea Scrolls, and that's why we know there is no Lucifer, because by good fortune, a little fragment of Isaiah 14:12 was found intact in the Dead Sea Scroll, and it tells us, it just says, bright morning star, there's no Lucifer. That's a Latin word. Getting back to Mohammad and the big box called the Kaaba. Butch thinks that there were survivors from that massacre, the Roman massacre, and they traveled to the oasis, which would have been known to them because it was talked about when, now see my memory's failing me, Abraham, he took his son there when he was an old man, was it Abraham, and the kid kicked his foot in the sand and up sprang water. So in the Jewish religion, the oasis was there. They knew about it. And methinks that maybe they built the original Kaaba. That's just Butch's thinking. But what's really interesting to unite the Jews and the Islamic folk, and I'm sure neither one of them ever thinks about that because they're not like into physics or science like Butchie Poo is. They are both cubes, and the Kaaba has been rebuilt, but basically it was identical in size to the Holy of Holies, which was 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits, if my memory hasn't failed me. 15 cubits, 20 cubits, I'm pretty sure it's 20 cubits. See, ever since my stroke, I had a stroke in August, memory's not so good anymore. Anyhow, it's a cube, and why would anybody build a fairly largish, flat-roofed building in those days? Because it was just harder to do. It's easier to put points on things or slabs. It's not that there weren't flat roofs, but that's a big flat roof, and in those days, that's an architectural problem, and I had to investigate the Kaaba because I thought, gee, that's a big roof. And within the Kaaba, there are 3 wooden pillars supporting the roof to help support it. So, because that's a big roof. And people will take the 3 pillars as being the 3 pillars of faith or something. It doesn't really matter. They help support the roof. So the way the Kaaba was supported was with 3 pillars. Now, I have no idea how the Holy of Holies in the first and second temples were supported, because both have been destroyed and we don't know. But the inner sanctum for the Jewish people was called the Holy of Holies, and it was a cube. Kaaba, cube. There's some connection there that we in modern times don't know about, or the Jews deny, or the Muslims deny. I don't know. I'm godless. I think the idea of God is ridiculous. It's just insanely ridiculous. It's so ridiculous that's why I know it's used to control people. Religion is used to control people who aren't well educated. That's called being ignorant. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant. Butch is ignorant. I don't know what I don't know. I'm ignorant of all kinds of stuff. But I know a lot more than most of you know. And I'm apparently fairly smart. So I put things together, and I'm trying to tell you for something to do. Because I could croak any time. What do I care? I don't believe in afterlives. I think it's silly. If there is one, it'll be a surprise to me. And this is a living hell on earth. A bunch of barbarians, everybody trying to kill everybody else. And geez, you got to be on your toes to live here. So I completely didn't get around to anything I thought I was going to talk about, because the cameras were giving me a hassle, and mostly it was a test anyway. I just wanted to do a Christmassy video and see how the gear is working. I want to see if you guys are tracking. How great you're tracking over there. That's really important. It's really a big test about that camera over there. The first 2 times, and I hope I got it right this time, it did time-lapse. So my first 2 tests were time-lapse. And maybe I'll squeeze that in somewhere, but I'm going to now finally shut up. I hope I threw something in there that was useful or interesting or entertaining or something. I hope there was something that was sort of entertaining. Where are the cameras? Okay, there you are. There you are there. I should really be spacing over here, right? I had to make some rapid adjustments to what I was doing because the one gimbal failed and what I thought I was going to do, the creators and all that went in time. I'm just learning. I don't get any money for this at all. YouTube thinks I'm not advertiser friendly, but what you gonna do? I'm old and I'm poor, but that's why I have to use. I don't have money for expensive gear. So what I'm going to do, I am going to shut up. I'm going to go around and start shutting cameras down, okay? Here we go. We're going to start with you. I have to come up and touch your screen. Bye-bye from Butch. I have to look for the button here. Boink. I think I did it. I did it. And then we're going to come over to you, and I'm going to go boink. I think I did it. And then we're going to come over to you. Oh, I think I'm going to go over to you first. And I'm going to pull you forward, and I'm going to go, and I think we're going to stop. I think I stopped. And then, so this was really a test of you, the DJI Nano camera, and you're all that's left here. So you're going to be the final thing, I think, maybe, possibly. Who knows? I'm pretty sure that the microphone for you is on, and I'm hoping to use your soundtrack for the soundtrack because you're my brand new microphone. So it's going to be like, bye-bye from Butch, and now I got to reach up here and try and find your button. It's very tiny and I can't see. Bye!